Hello, I'm Hat, and welcome to All Hat No Cattle. I'd like to extend a special welcome to the influx of new subscribers. Very nice to have you all here, and I'm looking forward to working with you to make this channel better and better. So this video is about a clip from D.L. Hewley's radio show. I got this video from a channel called Moor Info, M-O-O-R Info. It's an interesting channel, and I suggest you check it out. You'll probably learn a few things. Anyway, in this video, DL points out how the travel ban is what he says it is, and most importantly, how white males are the most dangerous individuals in America. So with that said, let's get to it.
For the weekend, of course, there was a lot of upheaval about Trump's Muslim ban. And let's be clear. Let's be clear. People can make an argument that it's not a Muslim ban. There are two religions in those countries, the major religions. One is Christian, one is Muslim. He's made it easier for Christians to get here and impossible for Muslims to get here for at least 90 to 120 days, right? Mm-hmm. So let's be clear. It is a Muslim ban.
DL, it's a travel restriction because people from these countries have a likelihood of being associated with terror groups. Their being Muslim is incidental. Now, it just so happens the incredibly large number of terrorist attacks, over 98% last year, are attributable to radical Islam. This is a travel restriction on people who may be either terrorists themselves or associated with these terrorists. Being Muslim has nothing to do with it. Being a potential terrorist has everything to do with it.
I made the example earlier that I could say I'm banning all 14 to 18-year-olds from coming to my party. And then somebody would say, well, you're banning high schoolers. No, I'm not. I'm banning kids from 14 to 18.
Okay, let's go along with your premise of the high school ban, the teenager ban. Are any of these teenagers violent? Do you fear they'll screw up the party? And are all these teenagers high schoolers? Are they all from the same school? Or are these high schoolers from 7 schools that are known to have a history of violence towards other schools? If they are, then you've got every right to ban them. In fact, you can ban anyone you want. It's your party. You don't have to have a reason.
It's the same thing. At a certain point, we have to be able to tell the truth. And we have to stop pretending like we don't know what we know.
Yeah, DL, that cuts both ways, as we're going to see in a little bit.
There used to be a time when Americans dreamed big. We wanted to go to the moon. And to go to the moon, you have to know the distance. You have to know how much it takes.
That was quite possibly the most comprehensive and moving 2-sentence summation of the NASA moon program I have ever heard. I'm almost in tears.
There has to be a certain amount of truth that you need to do that. We can't even decide what kind of country we want to be because there's no truth. Nobody tells the truth anymore. The truth is, you would like me to be afraid of countries that have not committed the acts that you ascribe to them.
And what exactly are we ascribing to them, DL? Could it be terrorism? Maybe. In fact, yes. So I guess you do understand the travel ban after all. That earlier part about it all being about Muslims was just you not knowing the truth that you know, or whatever. Think about it.
You would want me to believe that. You would say ISIS is supposed to be what we're scared of. The most dangerous thing in America is a white dude with an assault weapon and an attitude. If you wanted to really make America safer, you would ban assault weapons and not Muslims. What is more scary to you? A white cat that just got laid off and got a gun? Or a dude reading the Quran?
Okay, we've gone from a ban on people based on their religion to a ban on people based upon something that we cannot ascribe to them, to white men with assault rifles, actually, white men with guns, being the most dangerous people in America. Okay, DL, let's look at some stats. I did some research on mass shootings in 2016. According to the database I was looking at, a mass shooting is defined as any shooting that has 4 or more casualties. That includes dead and wounded. So with my pathetic 10 key skills, I added up 2,100 total casualties in mass shootings in 2016. Now, if you go by pure population percentages, with whites comprising approximately 70% of the population in the U.S., that whittled it down to 1,500 casualties And looking at the database, I can tell you definitively that the vast majority of shootings ended in more casualties than deaths, by far. Now, in Chicago, whose numbers I did not include in the statistics I had just read to you, there were 4,367 shootings in 2016, resulting in 762 deaths alone. And in Chicago, 70% of murders, just murders, are committed by blacks. One city, DL, one city with over half of the number of casualties in mass shootings being deaths, and 70% of those deaths being attributed to blacks. One city. And January 2017 had more shootings than January 2016. So we're off to a record pace. Tell me again, who's the most dangerous person with a gun in America? Also, those statistics about mass shootings included the Pulse nightclub shooting, in which Omar Mateen shot, killed, and wounded 103 people. That's the highest body count of any mass shooting ever in America. Omar Mateen. Does that sound white to you? I believe he was from Afghani parents, but that wouldn't matter to you, would it? Because it's white men that we've got to worry about, not those Quran readers, not anyone else.
So it's not even close to me. Most of the damage that is done in terms of a violent way is done by people that look just like him.
Once again, it looks like you're having a problem saying what you know to be true versus what you believe to be true. And if you do think the things that you're saying are true, I've got some morbidly obese people in Australia who would like to meet you and discuss rampant delusions.
But you're trying to make another enemy. And the people that are supporting this are people that will never be in the parts of the world these people live anyway. If you can't get out of your small-ass town, you have nothing to worry about from terrorists.
2 points to make here. First, why should you only have to be worried about being affected by terrorism if you can travel to one of the 7 countries listed in the travel restriction? How is that germane to terrorism in your country? That's like saying you don't have to worry about being attacked by a wild animal if you don't go to the jungle. Javelinas, cougars, bears? Yeah, no one's ever been attacked by them in the United States. Second point, only rural America, according to DL, is safe from terrorism. Because if you're not going to leave your small town, you have nothing to worry about. Okay, great. I grew up in a small town. There was no terrorism. There was arson, there was drugs, but no terrorism. He's right. So good for me. Great for my childhood. What about the people in, say, Orlando? I bet they thought they were immune from terrorism. I bet the people at the Pulse nightclub thought they were immune from terrorism. What about the people in San Bernardino? I bet they thought they were immune from terrorism. I guess the people in those 2 cities should have moved to small towns to save their asses. That's DL's logic.
They're not coming to your little rural town. And you're deciding how the world sees us? There has to be a certain amount of truth that we don't seem to be able to get to.
DL is able to cover a lot of bullshit in a short span of time, isn't he? Once again, I have to make 2 points after a 5-second clip. First, it's not like only rural America voted for Trump. If that had been the case, Hillary would have won hands down. Second, here we go with the truth thing again. This from a man who is about to repeat the same lie we covered previously. Yes, he's doubling down on the idiocy. As I did in my last video, I'd like to bring up Devin Tracy's regressive talking points. One of the most prominent ones is blame white people. Here we go again.
The most dangerous thing in America are white dudes. Angry white dudes. Let's be clear. Not Syrians.
Mr. Hughley is indefatigable when it comes to blaming white men for shooting deaths in America. I took a look at just the deaths from mass shootings in America in 2016. There were 522, not including the Pulse nightclub massacre and all of the numbers in Chicago, thereby keeping me from counting that city twice. In Chicago in 2016, there were 762 shooting deaths. And doing the math for percentage of blacks committing crimes in Chicago, that would leave 543 murders by gun committed by blacks in Chicago in 2016. 543 by blacks in one city in 1 year versus 522 in all cities via mass shooting, assuming all of those murders were committed by white people. So who exactly is the most dangerous, DL?
And if you were going to ban people, we're not Pakistan, because Pakistan, they come there and train. The San Bernardino shooter was from Pakistan. The Tsarnaev brothers were from Russia. So you make these boogeymen, and we're supposed to be afraid because no one will tell the truth. It very clearly is a Muslim ban. If you make it hard for the Christians, make it easier for the Christians to come and impossible for the Muslims to come, you have in effect placed a Muslim ban, and that is a religious ban, and it's unconstitutional.
DL can't even keep his narrative straight for 30 seconds. He points out that the San Bernardino shooters were from Pakistan. Correct. He points out that the Boston Marathon bombers were from Russia. Correct. Both of these deadly duos have one thing in common. They are radical Islamic terrorists. We are using the travel restrictions to keep radical Islamic terrorists out of the country. It is not a ban on religion. It is a restriction on the travel of terrorists. Hughley then points out, incorrectly, that it's a religious ban. So first, he correctly points out that 2 of the worst incidents in America due to Islamic terrorism were in fact radical Islamic terrorists. But he says, we didn't keep them out. The travel restrictions, or as he calls it, the Muslim ban, wouldn't keep them out because those 2 countries are not on the list. So therefore, we shouldn't bother. It wouldn't have prevented ones from before, so why should we prevent ones that come after? That's like saying you should not carry a spare tire because you've never gotten a flat before. It makes no sense to a rational human being, but to D.L. Hughley, makes perfect sense. And last but not least, freedom of religion in America applies to U.S. citizens. You do not have the right to enter this country at all. Certainly not just because you're of a religion that some people feel needs to be protected. That's patently ridiculous.
But you can say and do whatever because you get to play around with the truth. The truth is, it is a religious ban, and the truth is, when you look at that mirror, that comb over is dumb, and you look like a Cheeto. Those are all truths.
And again, the stupidity comes in pairs. First, DL once again blames other people for fucking around with the truth, when he has done exactly that this entire video. Kiss my ass, DL. Next up, ad homs against Trump. The tired old comb-over and Cheeto bit. I don't see how that's going to help your case, DL. I don't see how insults are going to make your facile arguments any better. You're just pathetic. Absolutely pathetic.
But if you can look in the mirror and see that yourself in the mirror and believe that looks nice, of course you ain't got no problem lying to us. But just like a mirror, that's a lie, and you wearing that goddamn comb over the lie. It's just a little note from the GED section. We got the Jazz Report that's coming up right after Charlie Wilson. I'm blessed. It's the D.L. Hughley Show.
And there you have it. He goes for the big joke to wrap things up, and he falls flat on his face. Unbelievable. Pretty sad for a guy who's supposed to be a great comedian. I'll tell you this much, this entire segment was a joke. Nah, get it? And the comparison to Trump looking in the mirror and saying, this looks nice, meaning that he can't tell the truth. DL, I got another comparison for you. How about you thinking that you're smart and then sounding like a complete fool on the radio? Do you see the parallel? Do you even know what a fucking parallel is? Well, that's another one in the books. DL took us on quite the ride there, didn't he? Mixing non-truth with a single kernel of truth wrapped in a big pile of stupid. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll stick around and enjoy future content from this channel. I certainly enjoy making it. Once again, if you'd like to subscribe, feel free, but I recommend you check the little bell next to the subscribe box. That'll keep you up to date on when new content is released. Time for me to go. Thank you for coming, and as always, thank you for your attention.